Hey guys, what's up? So, I was sent another airbrush from the company gocheer. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you'll probably remember that gocheer was a company that was kind enough to send me this lovely portable airbrush. I was really impressed with it. It was very nice, construction was good, really nice airbrush. Especially considering the price it was going for. Now, this is supposed to bridge the gap between that and a traditional, standard, stationary airbrush, like so. So you don't have to have the bulky, cumbersome compressor like you do on a stationary airbrush, but you don't have the canister like you do on another. So, get it open, we'll take a look. And you've got your warranty cards and everything, so, you know, all that. And you've got your operation manual, which I did briefly skim when I got sent the device. Yes, read the manual. Contact us at madheat99 at 163.com. That's interesting for an email address for a airbrush company, but okay, I guess. And it unfolds like a map. Meaning it was probably originally supposed to fold in like this, but, you know. And explains the basic operation, you know. There's your airbrush canister. So you adjust your airflow. So you adjust the size of the spray area, and this is not completely true because you do have other needles in here too, so. And then of course you've got how to clean your airbrush, Q&As, I'll leave it here. If you want to read it, it's kind of in pidgin English, but same rule here. Don't really know why Mad Heat is the name of a contact email for this, but okay. You have a 0.5 nozzle and a 0.2 nozzle. Yeah, it's not bad. I've not tested this, but I did get it out to plug it in and see if it worked. And it does work, so that is definitely good. Got your power brick. Standard AC-DC output that does its normal, usual AC-DC output things. Like playing Hell's Bells. Here's the actual unit itself. It's got kind of a faux carbon fiber finish. They're not buttons, they're little touch buttons instead. Just a metallic gloss black. It's all right. I mean, it's kind of really light for what it is. You've got a moisture trap, which is nice. I don't know how well it's going to compare to an actual moisture trap, but the inclusion of one's nice. Standard nylon hose, nothing fancy. You got your airbrush cleaning brushes and your droppers and a couple of O-rings. That's nice to have always. You have a little clip. This little clip attaches to the side of this to hold the airbrush on and the airbrush itself, along with the rest of the accessories, which I will get out now. Just set off to the side. Look at everything in here, my lord. A couple of little wrenches. Okay, we'll get the box out of the way so you guys can see everything a little better. There's the airbrush itself that comes with the unit, and this back half's plastic, which that's concerning. But at least this isn't painted, so that's good. You've got interchangeable cups too. You got a large diameter cup, medium diameter cup. You have two different needles that come in it as well, and they're marked, so that's good. You've got another tool for cleaning out the tip of your airbrush with, and yeah, that's good. It's a little bit thinner than a standard one. So that works. That's good. It's good if you have a little precision one. That's just gonna go in my toolbox beside my airbrush and be used to do exactly what it's supposed to do. You've got your standard connection point here. I don't really like this kind of textured, gnarled surface to screw something onto. It doesn't seem like it's going to work too well. This is your moisture trap. It feels okay. Doesn't really feel that great, and especially that you can see into the actual guts of the unit itself. So, for those of you who don't know what a moisture trap on an airbrush is designed to do, essentially what it's made for is it's supposed to, as the air travels through the moisture trap, it goes into this sponge and prevents the moisture from the air from getting into your paint and therefore getting into your airbrush and ruining your project. And then here's the little release valve where it's supposed to spray out. The thing is, when they're high quality ones like Iwata's version or any of the bigger airbrush companies, they're really nice. They work really good. I had one on my Neo Eco for years until I cracked the trap while trying to get it off one day to clean everything. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it sits crooked. I hope it doesn't, but it looks like it does. Now, my main complaint with this unit doesn't come from this. This is fine. This is a good, basic, cheap airbrush. It's whatever. Despite being plastic and feeling kind of cheap and light, it'll work. It'll get the job done. The wrenches, again, they'll get the job done. All these are fine. Tips are fine, all that. This is where my complaint comes in at. With how light feeling this is, and not being able to really adjust the variables of torque on this, I'm not sure how well this is going to output air to spray heavier bodied paints. I'm not sure how well this is going to really do. I'm sure it'll do okay. And also with it not being wireless, that's a pain. Because the whole point in buying small units like this are to alleviate big compressors so that you don't have to worry about having a huge air compressor sitting on your desk. I myself have a relatively large compressor on my desk. It's like a 3-gallon compressor. No, actually it's about a 1 gallon, but still, it's relatively large. It takes up some space, and I would rather, have something a little bit smaller. If this could have alleviated that, that'd have been great, but this, because it has to be wired, kind of doesn't fix that issue. Matter of fact, it takes up just as much space because of it. Let me demonstrate. So say you have your spray booth set up like this, and you're gonna need a spray booth for this because it's a regular aerosolized paint. So you have it sitting like this, and you got your airbrush slid in here like this. Well, this is made to be on the edge of a desk, so okay, that's fine. That's whatever. Looks good. Fits there fine. Here's the thing. This is butting up right to the very edge of my spray booth, meaning I have that much space between the edge of my airbrush booth and the actual compressor. Now, since this is not a curved power cable, it's not that long either. It's not super long either. You have to plug it in there. Okay, well now you're seeing it already. Always an issue because you're limited on how far you can bend that, so. And let me get the extension cord that's beside me. I don't want to crawl under my desk to plug in an airbrush. Most people probably don't. I also, this is fine in theory if you can find a way to snake it up around stuff. When you plug it in, you've got a red light. That's odd, but you have a red light. Red light's off. Here's where the hose screws in. So you'll turn it on and you'll have high, medium, low, high, off. That's fine in theory, but you have no idea what the PSI they're pumping out is. Again, if you're buying a product like this, you probably don't care because you're using an airbrush for simple processes in the first place, only getting some base coats on or laying on some primer, things I get. Now I can say that the hose is very long for some reason. I don't know why. The sound you hear is me straightening the hose out. So, hose screws in its normal area. And I'm going to leave the moisture trap. Sorry, I just hit the camera. I'm going to leave the moisture trap on the camera. Yes, I'm going to put a moisture trap on the camera. I'm going to leave the moisture trap on the airbrush. I'm going to screw this into the bottom of the moisture trap. It's a very cheap feeling hose too. I'm afraid that if I over torque this, I'm going to snap the hose. Now, looks nice, gets the job done. This is my main concern though. It's leaking air from here. Okay. That's not too bad of an idea, really. So what this does is this is supposed to do what's in intervals, where as you spray, it does exactly what my bigger unit does, where it fills up between spray sessions. So what it did was it was building up the PSI to do that, and now that it's built up, it'll only make noise when you spray it. Now, a way to have made this a whole lot better was to make this wireless and make this a bigger tank so it could hold more air. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. Okay. I'll just be using the standard cup that's on it because there's no point in not doing that. I'm taking the whole thing off. Yeah, cup's your standard airbrush cup. Nothing fancy. And I'll just set this off to the side. We'll move these out of the way. We'll just toss them in the box. The 2 extra needles come in the little protective cases. That's nice. The tips are the standard pressure fit tips. So again, that's nice. They're marked, also good. The wrenches are not marked, but you can kind of just tell by eye what they're going to be. So, let's test it out. Let's run some product through it and see just exactly how good it is. I'll be back. Let me grab some things to test this with. So, I'm going to use Billy the Test Marine for this project. You've seen Billy many times. Billy's back. Hello, Billy. Billy's currently blue from where I was testing out another airbrush a while back. That doesn't matter. Billy's going to be painted again. There's 2 things I'm going to be running through here. The first thing I'm going to run through here is a water-based acrylic through it. I'm going to run a alcohol-based acrylic. Because if it cannot pump out an alcohol-based acrylic, then it probably can't pump out enamel. So, that's my way of doing this type of test. If it can't do one, it's not going to do the other. I'm going to just put some gloves on. I look like a doctor currently. All right, I'm not sure how well you can hear me, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to zoom into this angle so you can see the process as we go. I'm going to start off by using Vallejo Surface Primer Black. I figure that if it can't pump this through, this is just water-based. Oh, so I'm going to test and see how easy this cleans out too. So, might as well, since we're testing it in the long run, might as well record that and see what we get. All right, let me go ahead and get the primer mixed. We're not going to use much because It's a single Space Marine. I don't think we're gonna need much for a singular Marine. Put a little bit in there. Go ahead and get me something to stir this up with. Okay. All right, that's probably enough. And we're gonna just pour this in here. Now again, in theory, this should be fine. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go on medium pressure. Don't think it needs to be high pressure for me to be able to do this. It's just primer after all. Very thinned out primer as well. So, doesn't look like it's doing bad so far. Alright, well, not bad. Okay. Well, it did pump out primer good, so that's good. Now, let's test and see how well it's going to do between coats. I'm doing all kinds of weird angles for you guys today, aren't I? So, I've got my airbrush spray out pot, and I want to test and see if this can be cleaned out in a normal way. Now, the other one cleaned out fine, so this one should clean out fine too. Okay, quick note between this musical montage. Since this thing is a touch screen, it likes to randomly shut off when you do wind up nudging or bumping this with your hand. So I just sat here for about a minute and a half squeezing the trigger for nothing to happen. Alright, so cleanup's not bad. It's basic. I mean, you can just do your usual whatever cleaner you do, spray it through, backload a little bit, spray it through again, and it's going to work perfect. I've had zero problems with it. Now, I'm still noticing some air leakage in certain spots like here and here, like down here around the collar and up here, but again, they can be alleviated with some plumber's putty or with some threading tape. I'm still not a big fan of how this plugs in, that I have to, have it all kind of cattywampus here on the side of my spray booth and have a cord dangling beside me and a cord dangling in front of me on top of all this camera equipment. So if they could make this more compact where this itself was just a separate unit that was just USB powered, that had a lithium battery in it, plugged in, you charge the battery, then it ran for a few hours on its own, that'd be perfect. It's not. That's really kind of a problem. Because why that's an issue, it alleviates the point of it being portable when it still is going to take up just as much room, if not more, when being plugged into a wall. So far though, I'm impressed. It hasn't done bad. I would put it on its high setting, which it's on right now with this green circle, to be cleaned. Because if not, you'll be sitting here for 3 days trying to spray it out. I would also adjust this up here like I did last time. But it, again, should be simple enough. Now, I'm going to test a water-based acrylic, probably something basic. Probably do like a green. We'll see how well that sprays through, and then we'll do a Tamiya paint, because if it can't spray Tamiya, it's not going to spray Mr. Color or Tester's enamel. So we'll just slide this in the We'll slide that in the little clip. Well, try to at least. I will grab a paint and I will return. All right, so what we're going to use for the water-based paint is Scale 75 Scale Color I-Radi Green SC43. Really nice, vibrant green color. I've used this in a lot of fantasy miniatures to create like ectoplasm flame and things, and it comes in really nice with Gundam models for painting like, you know, beam sabers and other things. It's not fluorescent, but it's pretty bright. And Scale 75 is really nice, really nice water-based acrylic. It's sort of like how you got your premium brands. They definitely fall in more of a premium brand. Nice little dropper bottle. They're good paints. We're going to get just a decent amount in here. Enough to be able to work with. You have to thin Scale 75 out quite a bit, given the fact that it's a pretty thick, heavy-bodied acrylic. And I wouldn't really use it with just water as a thinner. I would definitely put some kind of airbrush thinner in there. The camera's making this look a lot more fluorescent than it actually is. It's bright, but it's not that bright. Okay. And I know doing it over a black primer is going to dull the color of it, which is fine. I'm not trying to get a color accuracy test. I'm trying to get, will the airbrush work test. So, color cup's clean. We're just going to take and pour this into the airbrush. I'm going to leave a little bit out because I don't think we're going to need much. Let me adjust the camera and I'll be right back. All right, and we're back at the weird super up close angle. I'm going to again put it on medium because there's no point in this being on high to spray a watered down acrylic paint. We're going to test it. We're going to see. So, we'll start like right on this side. Sprays the paint out fine, so that's good. Atomizes a little bit, but I think that's more the paint not being super thin than I do the actual airbrush itself. Okay, well, the test with heavy-bodied acrylics, it did good. Of course, this is just a water-based acrylic, so again, nothing too hard to really push through an airbrush. So, you know, any airbrush at minimum should be able to push through a water-based acrylic. We're going to let this dry. I'm going to clean this out, and we're going to see if it cleans paint out well. Clean out primer fine, so it should, in theory, clean out paint. All right, so after cleaning out the Scale 75, it did fine. It cleaned up good, cleaned up as well as any other airbrush would do. So that's good. That means that it definitely has enough torque to do that. Now, to me is the one where I'm starting to wonder what perhaps is going to be a good color for this. So the closest thing to me is going to be brown. It's probably going to be brown. As much as I'm sure people don't want to have brown and green together on a model, he's a test marine, so it doesn't really matter. But also, I want you guys to be able to see it too. So, I will put this back in its little holster again, and I will prep me some brown for Tamiya. The brown we're going to use for Tamiya is one of my favorite brown colors. It is Tamiya XF10 Flat Brown. Really good on anything made of leather on a model. It's good paint. Really good brown color. Standard neutral brown. Looks a little red on camera, but that's just, of course, my lighting pulling kind of a red hue. If I color correct it, I will show that below. Using the tiny pipettes today because we're not doing much in the way of color. So, tiny pipettes for a tiny amount of color. Okay. There we go. Toss this off to the side. That should be more than enough. Put this off beside me. Get a little bit of thinner in there. I'll leave the pipette of thinner off to the side in case I need more. Since I'm using a different paint, I'm going to go ahead and use a different stir stick for it. Okay. All right, Tamiya's prepped and ready, and we'll see how well that's going to do. With Tamiya being a little bit heavier bodied and being an acrylic, I would rather, with it being an alcohol-based paint, use probably the high setting for this. So that is my mentality, at least. Should work better. All right, round two. I've got the device turned on. It's on high. I've got the paint in the cup. Let's see if we can pump Tamiya. Well, so far it's doing fine. Let's try it a little bit on the model itself. Yeah. All right. I had zero issues pumping Tamiya through it. So that means it should be able to pump any kind of acrylic through it. So that'll be fine. All right. So final thoughts time. I did my usual test. I ran a water-based acrylic through it. I ran a standard cleaning cycle through it. And then I ran Tamiya through it. Because in my experience, if something can't spray Tamiya, then it's not going to be able to spray anything like Mr. Color or Testors enamels or things like that. This did fine. Now, is it going to be a good workhorse? Probably not. No, this is probably not going to last you that super long, given the fact that the compressor is about 6 ounces. So, it's probably not going to last you too crazy long for the most part. But I think if you do basic things like this, where you just, spray 1 or 2 miniatures with it, or you do some simple priming coats, or like I'm using this for, you use it as a means of just until you get another standard airbrush to fix yours, because mine's kind of on the on its last legs, so they sent this in the perfect time. This is fine. This is perfectly adequate. It'll do the job fine. Despite me being skeptical when I got it out of the box because of how cheap everything felt, especially with this back end being plastic and this literally weighing less than a can of soup, I'm very impressed. This did surprisingly very well. It pumped a lot of paint through it, no problem, and it pumped different substrates of paint through it. I'm sorry, it pumped different mediums of paint through it. So it did alcohol-based, it did water-based, and it handled chemical cleaners just fine. And didn't give me any problems. Didn't bog down, didn't clog, did just fine, sprayed fine. I got a little bit of spattering and a little bit of mistiness here and there, but I think that's probably just because of how I thinned the paint. I think it has nothing to do with the airbrush itself. And having an auto shut-off feature is actually not that bad either. it's not too bad of a little device. I would say that if you can snag this thing for pretty cheap, I'm going to link it in my description below, now that I've given it my seal of approval. Yeah, it's worth the pickup. It's a good fill-in tool. It's one of those tools that's good for if you're kind of transitioning from one of the canister type ones that I've reviewed before, but you're not ready for a full stationary desk unit. This will serve its purpose fine. But it's also good enough to where if you want to use it to fill in between units, like if you've got a broken unit like I do currently, this is good until you get into the replacement unit. This is not bad. This is done well. I definitely will, of course, give updates in the future as I continue to use this until my new airbrushes come back in. I'm, of course, going to fill you guys in on, you know, if this takes a crap on me or anything, but so far it seems like it's a pretty decent airbrush for how cheap it is. That's good, because companies like this and NeoEco and things like that are really impressive for what they are, and I hope we can get more good cheap airbrushes like this. Black Widow's a good one too. You know, affordable airbrushes that are still going to perform pretty good. So yeah, if you guys are in the market for a decent, cheaper airbrush that's going to not be as bulky as a full desk unit, but not have the limitations of a canister, this is a good way to do it. And you don't have to learn to read any kind of valves or anything. You just look at a series of 2 buttons, you know, on, high, medium, low, off. You know, that's pretty simple to understand, pretty simple to do. And yeah, all honesty, I'm pretty impressed. I didn't think this would be that good. This cleans up nice. The spray's nice. It does well. It's smooth. I didn't really have any major complaints or problems with it. Despite it feeling a little cheap, I don't know how long it's going to last because of how cheap it feels, but I mean, this is aluminum. This is aluminum, so this is probably going to hold up well enough. I don't know how easy it is to get parts for, if they're proprietary or not. I would assume they're not. So yeah, I would go ahead and pick one up if you guys need one, or, you know, you like me and you just were curious. Yeah, it's pretty freaking good. I'd give it my full recommendations. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the next one.